Good morning, my beautiful Facebook friends. This is Jillian coming at you from Canton, Ohio, in a beautiful fall day that I'm just so excited to meet the day. And oh my God, yesterday was so funny. I just had all this energy to go self-express, and I was doing stretches on my deck, running up and down the deck with my dog, and I felt like I was 20 years old. Okay. I actually felt, yeah, like I was 20 years old, because in my 20s, I was a nanny and I was doing a bunch of exercises and running around and doing this stuff and a little bit of stretches. And I feel like I'm 20 years old and I'm 46. And I remember when I was going through school and struggling through school and stuff like that, that I dreamt that I would be the smartest person in the world. And I had dreams every night because I was always having trouble in school, that I would be the smartest person in the classroom, that I would just fast forward to be like an adult and get all the adult knowledge and then start school over again, and then not have all the knowledge of an adult, but going through elementary school and junior high and high school again, and then being like a genius, and then who knows what, And I'm thinking like, right now, it seems kind of like I'm living out my dreams. Hey, Steve, because I feel like I'm 20 again. I feel like I'm not going to go back to elementary school, but I feel like I'm going back in my 20s. I mean, hanging out with my husband, you guys can read between the lines. That's amazing. I'm not looking to do it all the time, hanging out with my husband like that, but I can at least keep up at least with him on some level, because he has the energy of a 20-year-old and he's like in his 40s, but I think most men do when they're right in their prime. But that's doing great. It's like it's the weirdest sensation. It's the weirdest thing. And I'm having these dreams because I'm also looking at the next phase of my life. And I actually blew my nose and had a little bit of a green mucus come out. So my body's getting rid of stuff, but I'm asymptomatic. But anyways, so I'm looking at the next phase of my life and I'm like, wow, I have this next book coming out, and I have somebody like Kevin we're working together, and I'm working on speaking about Jilly Juice. He's working about writing about it, adding his own contribution, looking to have it translated in different languages. I mean, there's a lot going on. And, it's like now that I'm in this type of like space, it's like a reinvention of who you are. You're still who you've been in some ways, but not necessarily the same who you've been, but you still have the essence of who you've been. Now it's just honing in on the strengths and the things that you are desiring, that maybe you just lost I don't know, the dream about what you're desiring because of all the health issues and the distractions that are out there. And so, yesterday I had Hamburger Helper, which is a major data pack on an otherwise compromised system. Hamburger Helper would probably stop somebody up and plug them up, but on a strong body, I can derive major amounts of nutrition from Hamburger Helper, but you have to be aggressive in pushing that Hamburger Helper through your system. Yes, you can do waterfalls, or you have an already strong body to release the excess. And I also I bought like $9 worth of donuts. Yes, Charmaine. Unleashing my potential. Absolutely. I didn't eat $9 worth of donuts. I bought them, and I bought like different flavors, and I took a bite out of each one because I noticed that they came out today like donut batter. Okay. So, I mean, not that it was horrible, but pushing out donut batter and pushing out Hamburger Helper was just so much fun. But that's what I'm saying, is that your data pack. So right now in the beginning, when you guys are first starting the protocol, you want to have more of an individually compartmentalized food, which is like the whole food, but broken down a little bit and then broken down a lot, like in the J juice. But then also You want to have more of a just an individual. I won't say clean, because clean would then say that the hamburger helper and the donuts were dirty. No, that's just a more of an advanced data pack. Donuts and hamburger helper and all the different processed foods are advanced data packs. The whole foods, the fruits and vegetables, are more of the simpler, you could say clean, but they are not so taxing to the system. You have to have the strength to break down processed foods too and distribute it. But you also have to have the strength to break down the cleaner or the more individual compartmentalized foods. So, but when somebody is coming off of a processed food diet that can't even deal with processed food, and then they switch over to then the Jilly Juice protocol, that diet, it then gives your body time to just relax, but work on the simpler, easier foods to digest. Because that's really what it comes down to. Now, am I going to eat hamburger helper and donuts every day? No, because that would be boring. And I don't want to work that hard in pushing it out of my system. But I could have kept it in my system. I mean, I didn't have to push it out, but I didn't want to keep it in my system. After I pooped everything out, I'm hungry again. I can go and feed myself again and play that game. So, you could live off a hamburger helper and donuts for one day and have it probably translate to the next day. I probably could have pooped the next day. My system probably could have utilized all of that stuff, because you guys heard that there's like microplastics and maybe paper and things in your processed food supply. And that's potentially true. And I've seen some interesting stuff come out of my poop, even since releasing all the excess fungus and the parasites. And there's stuff in the food supply, especially in the processed food supply, that it's not horrible, because obviously you wouldn't be able to digest it or get it down, and you would be injured if there's actual damaging plastic and damaging paper in your food supply. But the body can actually process a little bit of paper. It can process a little bit of plastic. And the reason why is because it comes out in your poop. Now you wouldn't be eating like, this plastic case, because you wouldn't be able to even get it down your throat. But sometimes stuff gets into the food supply, and I can't, and even I'm thinking like, does your digestive system and all that and the minerals that are in your body, and then when it comes out in your poop, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to make a diamond, but those chemical processes could also potentially create some stuff too during that digestive process, and it could come out in a specific way that's unrecognizable. So there's even that, there is a certain chemistry that happens, that food comes in one way and then it's kind of unrecognizable in the other way. And I'm not saying you're going to poop out pearls and diamonds and minerals, but if that ever happens, it means you're highly, highly mineralized. Okay. So, but that's potentially what goes on, because you have a biochemistry and you're taking in edible types of elements that are on the periodic tables. And then your body, whether it's imbalanced with having issues, are going to process it in a specific way with a specific type of projection of your spirit, because the spirit is based upon the biochemistry. And so I was actually writing to my dad, who I haven't really talked to in a bit because he's doing his own thing right now, but we've been, back and forth. And he's much better on email than he is on the phone. So it took him a minute to kind of get used to doing email. But I was explaining to him that, when I went to Portugal and all of that, I was learning, focusing on the spirit. What is the spirit? Because I was working on the body and I was working on the mind. And when I was in Portugal, it was when I had the spiritual awakening. And it wasn't because I went to Fatima and well, maybe it could have been because one of my friends I took with me, she really wanted to go see Fatima, which is this Catholic pilgrimage site where an apparition of Mary, Mother of God, and the 2 or 3 kids that witnessed it. And then it was a whole controversy about it. And so she wanted to go to that, and I wanted to take her with me to Portugal, because it was like, I haven't been out overseas in a while, and definitely by myself, I'm not sure. And I was going to speak about J Juice too, to Kevin's crowd, and then his, then all of his people. And so anyways, I told my dad that even though I bombed the speech because I was still in my research process and right on the heels of Dr. Phil, I had a lot of spiritual stuff going on. And I was noticing just filaments behind my eyes, the way the sun was beating, through the windows of my Airbnb. And then I was learning about the whole thing with Fatima and going through that whole religious site. And then also when I was going through some of the classes with the Infinite Man Summit where I was speaking, they had speakers that really helped myself and Kevin and my other group or my other people really just get to the next level, whatever it is, just, get some clarification on starting a journey and collaborating, finding the right people. So it was like an awakening there. And then that's what I discovered about the biochemistry and spirituality are actually aligned. And the art of the reset, the whole point of this whole theme is that when you reset your biochemistry with the right elements that are in the Jilly juice recipe. Now I create a formula, okay? So for those of you who are new, I created a formula that explained what the Jilly juice is and then why it is so complementary to the elemental composition of the human body, because this is what your body is made up of, okay? Take a look, guys. This is the formula to your body, and some of you have an imbalance. Some of you have too much minerals in your body, and it's causing your biochemistry to go cattywampus. Some of you have been diagnosed with so many different disorders and cancer, disease, chronic illness, maybe obesity, maybe underweight, malnourished. You're malnourished either way because you have imbalances. The nutrients and the minerals and all the different things that your body needs is not going to the right places. And so this is what your body's supposed to have, but you have imbalances. Okay? And you can see what it is. I mean, there's fats and minerals and carbohydrates. And then you see how I'm explaining the body, mind, and spirit, because really the human body comprises of the body, mind, and spirit. And then you see, then there's they don't have like the bacteria, the lactobacillus or the lactic acid, but they don't have bacteria as part of it. But yes, bacteria and viruses and parasites are actually part of the elemental composition, but they don't really mention it too much because people will freak out. But really, this is the actual elemental composition, the chemical composition. And then what it is you have the bacteria that are part of it. And I'm not even going to characterize like bacteria is good, because good means on a strong body. The body can handle the bacteria. I just blew my nose. I was pooping this morning, and then I blew my nose outside, and then I hawked up like a loogie type of thing, and it was like green. And that means that my body compartmentalized any excess bacteria, any excess parasites, any excess things that my body wouldn't be able to use. Because remember, you're always exposed to viruses, you guys. Now we're heading into flu season. We're heading into flu and cold season, okay? Which means that there's going to be excess viruses. There's going to be viruses that are going to be strengthened as it goes through people's bodies, okay? Because people get sick, and when people get sick, they get symptomatic. Guess what? They made that virus stronger. So when you get a vaccine, which is great, what happens is that now you have that virus in your body, which is fine. Maybe you shed, depending upon how weak or strong your body is. So you have symptoms. And then what you did was you basically mutated that virus. So if somebody catches that virus, now it's been mutated. Now, if it reaches another body that's relatively strong and has the vaccine and they have the antibodies, it's not going to go too much further than between that family. But if a person has a very weak body with not enough antibodies, okay, what happens is then they make that virus that didn't have their protection. And so they made that virus stronger because they're more communicable. So this is why those that are anti-vax have to understand the point of vaccines. The adjuvants that are in the vaccines, so you understand how this works, is just minerals that are in the Jilly juice, okay? That's all the stuff in the vaccines, are just minerals in the Jilly juice. It's minerals that your body needs. And then the whole point of trying not to create pandemics out there is to not make people communicable to then strengthen those viruses. What makes viruses strengthen? On weak bodies. And so weak bodies will strengthen viruses, and they will decimate people who are very weak, but it will make someone like me stronger. Okay, so I can be exposed to anyone that has, so someone that's anti-vax, doesn't get any vaccines, who has a weak body, okay, and then they catch whatever virus out there, I don't care who it is. They catch a virus from wherever, whether from a vaccinated person or unvaccinated person, they're going to come down with a major, major issue. and they'll be communicable. And I can walk into that environment and take on that virus and be able to process it, take on the data, because that's what viruses are. They actually make you smarter. Viruses make you smarter and they make you stronger. But how you acquire it and the state of your body is whether or not you're going to be able to tap into that strength or you're going to succumb. And those are the people who are anti-vax are succumbing to their environment because they are weak. And so the art of the reset is to be able to bring in the nutrients from the J juice to where you're not a weak body, because a weak body is the antibiotic probiotic method that are relatively proportional or equal to each other, that are proportional to the pain, productivity, and energy. Okay, which means that you're taking things and avoiding things because you don't want to deal with symptoms. You basically want to be asymptomatic, but you haven't earned the asymptomatic. So you're taking drugs and trying to live in a bubble to avoid having to deal with your universe. And then what happens is you then create bubble children who are going to be on weak bodies. You're taking out organs and you're trying to avoid vaccinated kids, but you can't avoid your environment. So you're then undermining your children's ability to be able to adapt. And then you're on a death trajectory. Okay? So death is if and only if the human body plus viruses to the infinite power plus the antibiotic probiotic method, okay, that is directly proportional to pain, productivity, and energy. And antibiotic method is when you're taking a massive amount of minerals to go and then attack a symptom or a virus, and that's called antibiotics because minerals are basically a conglomeration, or antibiotics are a conglomeration of minerals. That's all antibiotics are. Antibiotic, the word antibiotic is talking about the intention. There's a context when you use the word antibiotic. Probiotic is when you're taking just a bacteria, because when you take just a bacteria like a probiotic, the byproduct is lactic acid. That lactic acid is great in small doses, but when you overwhelm your body with lactic acid, guess what? It causes strokes. It causes a lot of health issues. That's why the J juice is all about balance. And so the adjuvants in the vaccines, for those of you who are anti-vax, deals with that balance, and it works with the chemistry of the body. Even though some of you may have adverse reactions, but you brought to the table so many weaknesses you never dealt with, you're going to have an adverse reaction regardless. If you never had some kind of vaccine or never been exposed to a disease, and then you have a weak body, and then you're out there communing with people who are not really taking care of themselves, that are very communicable, guess what? You might die. And so all of this vaccine schedule has the specific chemistry. Okay, but really why people are so worried about the safer vaccines is because they're working from a perspective of a weak body. So they think their experience and having an adverse reaction, being vaccine injured, is going to be everybody's experience. And guess what? They start imposing and legislating morals onto other people when they're not really taking all the different individual bodies into account, and they're just imposing their way. And so the whole thing with J juice is you get your, first of all, you understand the biochemistry of your body, and that manifests the spirit. And so you're working from a looping set biochemistry that's been basically maintained by the allopathic holistic world, because it's not about them to go and change your biochemistry to where you're unrecognizable. No, you have a choice in life. You want to work at a bank, or you want to work at a bar, or you want to work, wherever you want to work. You want to have your children, you want to have your family, you want to have all of your types of friends. And so the medical holistic world wants to maintain what it is that you chose for your life. They're not about trying to change your life. You have to change your life. And so if you want to have a better future or reset where you actually can then experience your 20s, and then you're in your 50s, and then you can go and reinvent yourself in a lot of ways, but yet still, you still have your family, you still have your friends, you still have your futures, you still have your past, you still have everything, but you now have more of an opportunity to beat death in a lot of ways. Because if you didn't have cancer, disease, and chronic illness, of which the Jilly juice does address, okay, what the hell would you die from? If you're keeping the balance of your elemental composition to the human body, what the hell would you die from? Yeah, okay, you're in a car with somebody who is drinking and driving. Yeah, that's how, but then when you're on the Jilly juice, you're not going to make bad decisions. You're not going to be drinking and driving and cavorting with those that are doing that, because you'll be like, whoa, hold on a second. This person had a drink. 2 drinks, 5 drinks. Should I get into a car with that person who did this? No. And then you make better decisions so you don't experience the death process, because even though you can't control another person's behavior to save yourself, you now have the ability to make better decisions so you don't walk into situations that you have no control over to where you end up dead. Okay? So the art of the reset is understanding how your biochemistry is, and then understanding how the body, mind, and spirit have to be aligned. And right now we have in our society where people's bodies and minds are sort of aligned, but their spirit is so out of whack. And so even though, yes, they're thinking, in a specific way, and they've maintained a relative homeostasis, they've adapted to their choices in life. And so their mind is also reinforcing their body's decisions, and their body's decisions reinforcing the mind's decision, but their spirit is way out there. And so they have unpredictable behavior. And then people notice the behavior. And then also too, you then dealing with your cancer, disease, and chronic illness is going to then take you into a death trajectory. And then all that comes with the death trajectory. You have drama, you have chaos, you have politics, you have, fights in families, you have unpredictability in your future. There could be divorce, there could be marriages, there could be who knows what. Okay, there could be sickness, there could be cancer. I mean, all of that stuff is having to do with an unpredictable, chaotic, misaligned biochemistry where their spirit is way out of whack. Okay. And the aging process, when you're so you see somebody that doesn't have too much drama, they're not drinking and driving or whatever, they're not doing anything crazy, but you see their hair is going whiter or gray. You see then the imbalances, you see that they're having to wear glasses, there's degradation in their eyesight, degradation in their hearing, their skin, they have to put more lotion on. You're seeing that the wrinkles are becoming more pronounced. Maybe they're becoming more obese or becoming more malnourished or more underweight. That has to do with the body trying to keep the heart, the brain, the lungs, and the liver, and the kidneys alive, the vital organs. Because your vital organs are what keeps everything going, even though it may not be the way in which you want to live, but it keeps you going relative to whatever your expectation is. And so what happens is when you are dealing with all the different drama out there, but you're not exhibiting the drama, but you're not taking in the right elements, and you have chaos on the inside, but you keep it relatively well under wraps, the body then steals minerals and nutrients from your hair, from your skin, from your nails, from other extremities. And then you start seeing the body, like the heart and the lungs and the liver and all that stuff, leaching minerals from the obvious. And then you start seeing your eyes go in your ear, and that's what aging is. And then also that contributes to the fear of the vaccines, the fear of Monsanto, and having to do with all the activism. And I know some of you who have been my moderators are watching me right now are you're sliding back into your old ways. We met on that platform of anti-vax, and I've gotten away from that, realizing there's an actual place for vaccines and a place for government and a place for all these things, and you've still stayed stuck in that world. You realize that the fears and all the activism, all the stuff, the anti-government stuff comes from the fact that you have imbalances, and that's going to age you. All of those hormones and all of those fears and all those worries and anxiety around things that you can't control, but you just don't know it because you have a lack of control in your body. That's going to age you and steal and deplete minerals. And then people get on this death trajectory. And then they tell me, oh yeah, J juice didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. Well, of course, because you decided to make that choice amidst all the information. Okay, some of you are just new on here, coming on this and realizing that, okay, maybe there's something that that is making sense. But also too, the book that Kevin and I are collaborating on, I do talk about the 4 seasons and how the 4 seasons in our society where people are dying, how they are very similar to our death process. And what I'm proposing is that it's summer all year round in the body. What does that mean? Well, there is summer, which is life. Everything, there's no upset of homeostasis, no drop in temperature, rise or drop in temperature. There's no major cataclysmic event that's going to mess up your environment. And then you just keep living. Let's say a wild animal runs through a forest and it breaks leaves off the branches. The leaves will just regenerate. The tree isn't dead, but the leaves will regenerate based upon the other upset of homeostasis of an animal running through its environment. Okay? because we're living in a world full of life. People are going to walk through your town, and their energy is going to then emanate, and it's going to either create chaos or just go along smoothly, and just, like osmosis, where you are just at one with the ether, and you're taking in the energy and all the antigen and everything that's around you, and it's coming out the other end, and you're not having any blockages or stopped up, and you're just going along life smoothly with no drama. That's what summer all year round is. When there is no blockage and no major upset of homeostasis, you're not worried about everything because you know how to negotiate the elements, and you are steadily just staying the same age, 20 years old. Okay? Then there is fall. Fall is degradation. Fall is when the body starts breaking down. Right now we're in fall in Ohio. The leaves are changing, the air is getting cooler, animals are scurrying around, getting territorial about their hibernation, their nests, and they're burying their nuts, and they're hunting for this and doing that, and bears are trying to eat a lot before they have to go and hibernate. So fall is a preparation for winter, and it's a period of degradation. And in the body, in our society, the aging process is the period of degradation. And you may not hit that right away, but you see it in people's behaviors. The degradation of their behaviors, of their body, manifests in their biochemistry, which manifests in behavior. So you see the fear, you see the political stuff, you see the minerals being leached out of their hair turns white. And maybe people may actually experience that way early on in their age, where their hair is now their insurance policy, and it's getting white. It's been white ever since they were born in one area or in a big area. Okay. And so then you start seeing the degradation, and that's the aging process, is the fall process in our society in a climate such as Canton, Ohio. Then you have winter. Winter is the period of death. It is when everything is like a temporary death. People hibernate, animals hibernate. You don't see a lot of activity because people are more sluggish. They stay indoors. You don't see too much of the chemistry between neighbors because they're all staying hunkered down unless they have a phone call and they want to call each other. But you don't see a lot of people going out there and enjoying the sunshine because it's just too cold and they don't want to get frostbitten. And some areas don't get a lot of sun during the wintertime. So they're just hunkered down. And then that's when you see depression, the seasonal affect disorders, and all the different bipolar stuff come to surface. So that's the death process. So in our world, as far as the Jilly Juice world, well, not Jilly Juice, the Matrix, death is final. But then people will justify death by saying, okay, well, the body degrades, and then the spirit goes on to the universe. And then I'm watching Zach Bagans' Ghost Adventures, which I'm very fascinated by. Ghost Adventures, very fascinated by just, what is the factors that create people are able to tap into the other side, and then what manifests these specific energies. And so of course it's really the violent and very aggressive energies that are able to manifest itself without the physical body. Okay, and that's what the whole occult is, and the satanic stuff is, and the playing with the Ouija board is that people was like spirits, the kindred spirits, because Zach Bagan has chaos inside. The people that he interviews have major biochemical chaos inside, and they're able to then recognize a kindred spirit. And this is why you guys circulate in the groups that you circulate in, because you have kindred spirits. Your biochemistries are relatively the same. And so this is why then we have groups that clash with each other, like on Facebook as well as in the world, because you have what would someone characterize be life and order will then have a conflict with death and chaos. And only the universe knows what the truth is. So you may think, oh yeah, I'm life and order, right? And really, truly, you're not, but that's your perception, but it's still true. Life and order will conflict with death and chaos. And so when there's conflict, somebody is death and chaos, and somebody is life and order. And there could be both, could be death and chaos, but one has more life and order than the other one. But it's still, you're still on the same death trajectory if you're fighting with each other. Okay, so anyway, so that brought me to then this whole thing with the biochemistry and the death, and then the spirit. And where does the spirit go? Well, the spirit just goes back out there into the universe, but it still stays. And some people who can see the spirits because they have a kindred spirit, and then they actually practice with their biochemistry. And so when I played the Ouija board when I was 17, I had a major chaotic biochemistry. So I was able to feel the board move and be able to tap into some spirit of a kid that was like dead from a car accident. And this is over here in Seven Trees, California. So I was playing the Ouija board with a friend of mine. And, and it was pretty chaotic anyways back then. So a lot of stuff was going on. But when I was watching on Ghost Adventures last night, and Zach and the other dude who had issues too, because these people who are able to tap into those types of spirits also have major stuff going on. And it's like their energy is like, oh yeah, your energy is going to then, be able to then merge energy with your energy, the other person's energy, and the spirit energy is then going to have a really strong spirit energy, is going to then be able to then speak to the living, the participants. So that's how the Ouija board works. I will never play the Ouija board because I will never ever be able to have any kind of connection with those chaotic biochemistries that have resulted in death. Oh, hell no. I would never mess with that. And I will never ever see a spirit like that because we don't have we're not kindred spirits. But those that are able to tap into the other side and have a kindred spirit, and it makes you question, do you really want to be that close to death to be able to speak with the other side? No, I don't want to have any part of the other side to where the physical body has disappeared, but only the spirit. And you never know what kind of spirit you're dealing with. You already know the spirits you're dealing with right now out there on the internet. Those that attack you have really bad spirits. Those out there that do murders and do gang banging and do a bunch of drugs and drink a lot and do violence, those spirits can be pretty aggressive. And if you're not in that same mind frame or same mindset or whatever frame of mind, you're going to want to kind of take yourself out of that spiritual, Okay, so this is why we have conflicts of spirits and biochemistries out there, because the body, mind, and spirit is misaligned, and then you don't really have the same similar biochemistry. Okay, so the art of the reset is to reset your biochemistry where you're not on a death trajectory. You're not manifesting behaviors that would show someone that you're on your way out the door. And when you are experiencing cancer, disease, chronic illness symptoms on a string of drugs, and you're drinking a lot, and you're trying to escape your life because your life right now is kind of like chaotic, that's a death spirit. It's on a death trajectory. And what Jilly Juice is attempting for you to actually come to terms with past genetic issues, because not only are you dealing with your own weaknesses, because that's what the Jilly Juice does, is you have to deal with pain. Pain is where the body is trying to heal, and then you've taken drugs and your lifestyle and all the different protocols and remedies that are out there. You're just trying to stop the pain process, but you're trying to stop the healing process. So what the J juice is that you actually bring in nutrients, the cabbage water and pink Himalayan salt that's fermented, that creates the lactic acid from the lactobacillus, keeps the balance of the body, and then you actually have to then fix the weaknesses. Some that you already know about because you've experienced, you got in a car accident, or you had an operation, or you had some kind of drug abuse issue that comes to surface. But also too, you have generational pain. You have things that your parents and your grandparents took on 200 years ago that you were not even aware of, that you also have to deal with. And that's the spiritual pain. It may not be so much physical, it might be physical, but you never know, what kind of, because you're not going to get a weakness. You're not going to get a heart weakness from being next to somebody. You're not going to catch somebody's heart problems. But you know why it's genetic? It's because those weaknesses get passed down from generation to generation. But if my husband has a heart issue, if I have a heart issue, it's not something that's communicable. Heart issues aren't communicable. Now, the things that are communicable are the bacteria. But on a strong body, it's not going to hurt you. On a weak body, it'll just lower your ability to be able to fight off any excess programming and release it, and then you sustain more programming that takes over your body, and that's called cancer, disease, chronic illness, aging. But you can't catch a heart disease. Heart disease is something that's passed down because it's generational weaknesses. And if you don't take care of those generational weaknesses, guess what? Every generation after is going to have a much more of a weakness and glitch more and glitch more. And that's why you're seeing now shootings, mass shootings. You can say, oh, yeah, it's the government trying to take away your guns and creating mind control. But even that whole mentality of a person actually doing that, as well as a person thinking that's what's going on, that's already an imbalance. So now it's up to every one of us to start then changing the mentality of yourself to then change the mentality, change the biochemistry of yourself to then change the biochemistry of your children, so you don't create homegrown terrorists in your own house. Because you're anti-vaxxers, and you anti-government people, and you people that are totally railing against things that you really can't control because you can't control somebody else, you're creating homegrown terrorists. You have no idea your activism is going to create an imbalance in your child. You don't realize this, or your obliviousness to the body, mind, and spirit, and the nutrition is going to create glitches. So you're either going to create a predator out there, or you're going to create a victim. I mean, that's really what is going on in our society, that is not getting a hold of their body, mind, and spirit. They are creating predators and victims. And you probably can figure out with your kid, I was an aggressive child. I was never really a victim. I've had people do shit to me, but whatever. But I would never characterize myself as a victim. I've always been a strong person. But then I'm sure when you're a child or when you're an adult and you've had shit done to you, you could be construed as a victim. So that's what I'm saying. Victims and predators are interchangeable. Victims will become predators potentially if it's been fostered. Okay, and then predators could have been victims, because it's the extreme. It's the love and hate. It's living on those two extremes, the love and the hate. When someone loves you, or hates you, they live in extremes. Okay, and then if you don't have the love and hate, but now you're just indifferent, you don't want to exude. Maybe in your mind you hate or love something, but you're crafty, you're smart, you're strategic, you know how to work with your biochemistry. And those very crafty people then exude indifference. They don't give you anything to work with. So you have no idea how to categorize them or how to deal with them. Now, I'm not saying categorizing is good, but at least when somebody gives you information, you know how to work with it. Okay? So yeah, you kind of want to know where a person's coming from, and you get that through communication. So when someone says nothing at all, they're indifferent. They're not giving you shit to work with. I've dealt with those people too. So I dealt with the love, and the hate, and the indifferent. And now who I really want to work with is the acknowledgement. People that acknowledge. Yes, I acknowledge that, yes, vaccines are out there. And there's a reason. I wish we didn't live in a world where we have to have vaccines, but we do, because you can't control people. And then you do the J juice, and you acknowledge, and you move on, and you make your life better. Not by imposing your view on somebody else, but you actually make your life better. See, now when I sneeze, I have excess antigen or excess virus programming, excess minerals that my body needs to release. And that's part of my strong immune system. Sneezing is a force to get things that don't belong in your system out. When you poop, when you pee, when you have mucus, when you hawk loogies, all that stuff is the excess viruses, the excess parasites, the excess minerals that your body doesn't need. And when you guys are having all this mucus flowing, it means that you have a virus that your body can't handle because you have a weak body, and it's trying to get rid of it. It's the body's defense system. So when you are symptomatic and you are having headaches and you have the flu or the cold, your body is weak, because no matter what, you're always going to be exposed to this. You never can get away from this, no matter how much of a bubble you think you're going to live in. Oh, I'm going to avoid the vaccines. I'm going to tell everybody to avoid the vaccines. And you don't even know what kind of lifestyle that person is leading. So that person could be eating elderberry syrup and drinking major alcohol and having, they're eating foods that are imbalanced with their system. And then you're telling them on a weak body that they should avoid something that's going to potentially help them not die when an aggressive virus. No, sorry, that's an imbalance. That's somebody imposing their view and not really understanding balance. Because even processed food isn't bad, but can your body handle it? Do you have the means to be able to handle that massive amount of information? This is a data pack. Coffee is a data pack. Coffee has minerals. It has yeast. It has all the different bacterias, okay? And then my body is able to negotiate with it. It releases the excess, takes in what it needs. I have a slight little ooh, because it does kind of work with the adrenaline. It has a little bit of caffeine, but it's not overpowering. It's not taking over my body. my body isn't weak where this cup of coffee is going to make me so wired. So those of you that still get really wired from your coffee, it's because you have a weak body that's allowing things like this to influence it in such an aggressive level. Okay, so when you actually get your body well balanced, this cup of coffee is going to be more of a habit and a taste, not so much for the chemical effects, because you have now a more powerful biochemistry that will influence your environment, influence the foods that you eat, influence the energies in the universe. And if your energy is really imbalanced, yeah, you're going to influence it in a very negative way. And then it's going to then cause the degradation of your cells, as well as the cycle of death in other people. And so J-Juice attempts to give you guys the opportunity to understand what well-balanced means, to understand how to take in the elements. Because this, my life trajectory, this is what life, the formula to life is. If and only if the human body, to the power of viruses, plus the Jilly juice, to the infinite power that is directly proportional to pain, productivity, and energy, which means that relative to whatever environment you're walking into, you'll be able to adapt to that environment. It's not going to be something like, oh my God. So no matter what, if you get a vaccine, if the climate changes, or if there are people around you that are really, really sick or really, really aggressive, you'll be able to adapt. And maybe you may have to leave a very aggressive environment, or you adapt to people that are sick around you, that their sicknesses are not, because once you get sick, you're adapting to now somebody else's biochemistry because you have the same biochemistry. My husband never gets sick. He was last year, but I was asymptomatic. If my husband ever gets sick, I'm not going to succumb to his biochemistry, because I got a stronger biochemistry when it comes to taking on extra data from viruses that are out there, which you can't avoid. He'll succumb. My dog Sugar, she's chill. She was attacked by 2 dogs this last summer. Okay. And she had an upset of homeostasis, yes, but it didn't last too long. But she took on viruses from those dogs. But she was fine. Gave her the J juice, patched up her little wound, because all it was just 2 puncture marks when the dog actually had her by the neck, but she had another dog by the neck. It was crazy. I wasn't there. But she always sustained. And then me being gone and then taking on the dog's viruses, she had an issue with some of her digestive system, trying to get that work through her system. And a lesser of a dog would have probably got Lyme disease or any other disease and probably would have succumbed to that attack. But no, she took her 6 days to recover from that. And she, it's not like I'm giving her J juice every single day and shoving it down her throat. No, but her system is so strong that she's able to adapt to her environment. But it's up to us to also, we're going to get a fence at some point. But now I'm pretty vigilant. And so I watch to make sure that, and those dogs haven't been around since. But that's what I'm saying, is that you guys will be able, once you figure out your biochemistry with the J juice, you're not going to live in the world of activism or fear. Okay, you're not. And you'll do the J juice, you'll deal with the pain, you deal with the healing, and then your kids are going to see how much more relaxed you are, because your activism does affect your children. Your hatred for the government, your hatred for vaccines, your hatred for anything will affect your children. And it could potentially create homegrown terrorism in your own household, in your own community, because you have no idea, with kids with their own login and passwords, they're going to school, cavorting with kids that you don't really know who they're cavorting with. And then, of course, on the internet, you have no idea what they're reading, what they're taking in. And some of these parents don't realize that they are creating homegrown terrorists, because they're reading stuff on the internet. They're looking at their parents' Facebook and going like, oh my God, the government's trying to kill us with the vaccines. And they go and read all this anti-vax stuff. And then there's some really aggressive personalities out there that want to then take people from where they're safe in their homes, say, okay, now we need to go out and rise up. We need to go and set an example and do something that's going to make everybody take notice of this whole thing. And you don't know what people who are imbalanced are capable of, to take something that is like very benign in their household, or not really benign, but take an innocent child that's going to now turn into someone like, you know, the Unabomber. I mean, I don't know, it's extreme, but that's what I'm saying is that what we're creating until we get our body well balanced. So the whole art of the reset is to reset your biochemistry and deal with the pain under the J juice. And if you don't reset your body, we're already, every generation gets worse and worse and worse. And the more fears that we have out there, the more that we can't, people that can't adapt to the changing environment and the climate, guess what? The children are going to pick up on that, and it's going to become worse. And then maybe some of them will be prematurely thrown in jail or get involved with drugs, and then some kid dies, and now they're on a $10 million bond. That's what right now our future holds for those of you that are not getting a control of your biochemistry. And then people are so worried about racism. Racism lays in the mind. Racism is not out there, it's in here. So if you think, well, society is racist, where are you coming from? What are you projecting? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you stop reacting to what you think reality is, the reality isn't there anymore. There are people, yeah, that are imbalanced. You can call it racism, you can call them, you know, cancer, disease, and chronic illness, you can call them terrorists, you can call them whatever. They're just imbalanced. How they manifest the imbalance is based upon what you project. And then people live from that reality. So if you just stay away from imbalanced people, you're not going to have a problem with any of the isms that are out there. You stop feeding your brain stuff that feeds into your isms, you start seeing a world from a different point of view. And then your kids will start flourishing and blooming and become a very well-balanced individual that will stay away from imbalanced people, that will create the peace on this earth because you came from peace. You came from peace, stability, a balance between love and hate, where you're not indifferent, but you are just acknowledging what's so, and you're moving on. And then you create your society. But no, we're not going to have the society we want where they're not racist or not this or not that, because you're projecting it. All the problems that you see out there, the 9/11s, the conspiracy stuff, you're projecting it. You're not dead. Government is not coming after you unless you're trying to invite them because you're exuding imbalance all over Facebook. Oh my God, the world's freaking coming on it because of this, and this. Okay? So it's time you guys kind of change your back, but it's up to you. I mean, if you want a war-torn environment and you want death and chaos, yeah, you'll do your activism. You'll play those games, and then you say, oh yeah, Julie, I want to do JJ, so I support you. I do this. Bullshit, you're contributing to the chaos. Proof is in the pudding. Actions speak louder than words. Words don't mean shit. Because I'm going to tell you, a lot of people fed me a lot of lines that I'm seeing actions are totally, completely opposite. And that's why I block people too, because I'm so tired of the hypocrisy. Don't tell me one thing and do another. It doesn't make sense. And those are the imbalanced people I stay away from. Remember, you guys have every ability to stay away from imbalanced people. So racism and conspiracies, all the things don't have to affect you. But the fact that you have a name for all the imbalances puts you in a little category, and then you have the reality that's what life is. No, life isn't racism. Life isn't conspiracy and anti-government. Life isn't about government trying to do all this stuff. There are imbalanced people that do stupid shit, yes. So stay away from them. Jesus. All right. I'm going to go. Happy Sunday morning live. You guys have a good day. Do the reset. Do the JJs. Bye.